The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. These words from Psalm 34:18 hold a truth that many of us have forgotten in our busy lives. My dear friends, have you ever wondered why some of your most painful prayers feel like they're disappearing into silence? The universe has a peculiar way of working through our pain, especially when we feel most alone. Today, I want to share something powerful with you, a reflection that can transform not just how you pray, but how you experience God's presence in your moments of hidden suffering. This isn't about putting on a brave face anymore. This is about being seen, truly seen, by the one who created you. The world has taught you to smile through your pain, to say, "I'm fine," when your heart is shattering. But my friends, God sees beyond those practiced smiles. He catches every tear you've hidden, every silent sob muffled into your pillow. And today, we're going to explore the sacred space of that honest vulnerability, where your true strength has been hiding all along. Let me share with you the 10 profound truths about the prayers you whisper when no one is listening. 1. The strongest prayers are sometimes the quietest ones. Those prayers that barely made it past your lips, the ones you couldn't even form into proper sentences because the pain was too raw. Those are the prayers that shake heaven. My dear friends, the universe responds most powerfully to authenticity, not volume. When you couldn't find the words, when all you could manage was a broken whisper, God was leaning in closest to hear you. This is why sometimes the most transformative prayers aren't the ones shouted from mountaintops, but the ones barely breathed through tears. Think about Moses, who simply stood silent before the Red Sea, his heart crying out when his voice couldn't. The Bible tells us God responded, "Why are you crying out to me?" Exodus 14:15. God heard what Moses hadn't even verbalized. That's how intimately connected you are to the creator of the universe. If you've ever felt that your quiet prayers weren't powerful enough, let me assure you, it's often in those moments of raw, wordless vulnerability that God moves most decisively. The prayers that cost you everything to whisper are the ones that move heaven with special urgency. My friends, your exhausted sighs are holy language to God's ears. 2. I'm fine doesn't fool God. How many times have you practiced that smile in the mirror? Perfected the tone of voice that says everything's okay when inside you're crumbling? We come in agreement today that while these performances might convince everyone around you, they never fool the one who knows your heart. The universe has designed you with such intricate complexity that your true state resonates through the spiritual realm regardless of the face you show the world. When others ask how you are, you've learned to say, "I'm fine," to avoid burdening them or appearing weak. You've become an expert at it, smiling with your mouth while your eyes hold oceans of unshed tears. But God reads beyond the script you've memorized for others. He sees the tension in your shoulders, feels the heaviness in your chest, knows the thoughts that keep you awake at night. This is both terrifying and comforting, isn't it? To be so thoroughly known, so completely seen. My dear friends, there's a profound freedom in being known so completely. You don't have to maintain the performance for God. He already knows, and He's waiting for you to stop pretending with Him so real healing can begin. The universe responds to truth, not performance. When you drop the mask before God, you open channels for divine intervention that your carefully maintained facade had been blocking. 3. Faith isn't always loud. Sometimes it's barely breathing. In a world that celebrates loud declarations of faith, there's something profound about the quiet, desperate kind. The kind that doesn't have the strength to shout or dance or raise hands in worship, but still believes, still holds on, still refuses to let go of God, even when everything hurts. My friends, some of the most powerful acts of faith I've witnessed weren't dramatic testimonies or bold declarations. They were simple moments. A mother making her children breakfast after crying all night. A man going to work despite crushing depression. A woman whispering, "Help me," through tears when she thought no one could hear. The Bible tells us in 1 Kings 19 that Elijah didn't encounter God in the wind, earthquake, or fire, but in a gentle whisper. The universe often works this way, not in the dramatic moments that everyone can see, but in the quiet persistence that only God witnesses. Your faith that's hanging on by a thread, that's not weakness, that's holy endurance. When you've continued to believe despite having every reason to walk away, you've demonstrated a faith more genuine than any polished Sunday performance. My dear friends, sometimes just continuing to breathe, to exist, to not give up, that
I forhold til at have also tror jeg at jeg har væk hvor hver en så at kan arbejde meget for det altså det er sådan jo jeg siger det så lige fire mig op for at det lockdown har jo det fænger sådan alle jeg kan se tænde for
4. God holds what the world doesn't notice. Those invisible burdens you carry, the ones nobody asks about because they don't know they exist, God sees them all. The effort it takes just to get through another day, the strength it requires to keep showing up, the courage behind your silent battles. None of it is wasted or unnoticed in the spiritual realm. My dear friends, the universe operates on principles of divine recognition that often contradict human attention spans. While people might celebrate only the visible victories, God treasures the hidden faithfulness, the private integrity, the unseen sacrifices. Think about the widow in Mark 12:41-44, who gave 2 small coins. Jesus said she gave more than all, the others, though her contribution would have seemed insignificant to onlookers. Why? Because God measures differently than humans do. He sees the true cost, the heart behind the action, the love that motivates the smallest gesture. Those tears you've shed alone, God collects them. Psalm 56:8 tells us He keeps track of all our sorrows and collects all our tears in His bottle. Nothing is lost, nothing is wasted, nothing goes unnoticed. My friends, in those moments when you feel invisible to everyone else, remember that you are the focus of heaven's attention. The universe doesn't operate on human metrics of significance. Your hidden faithfulness, your private pain, your silent endurance, all of it matters profoundly to God. Brothers and sisters, may the peace of God be with you. If you're enjoying this video, type 1 in the comments. If not, type 0. Your opinion is sacred to me, as it helps me continue this mission of spreading light, faith, and hope. 5. You don't have to be happy to be holy. The world has sold us a dangerous lie about faith, that true believers should always be joyful, always victorious, always smiling. But my dear friends, the universe recognizes a deeper truth. Sometimes, holiness looks like grief with hope, like pain with purpose, like tears with trust. Jesus himself was described as a man of sorrows acquainted with grief. Isaiah 53:3. If our perfect Savior could experience profound sadness, why do we expect ourselves to maintain perpetual happiness? True holiness isn't about feeling good all the time. It's about being real with God through every emotion. It's about bringing your whole self before Him, including the parts that ache, the questions that haunt you, and the doubts that whisper in the darkness. My friends, some of your most sacred moments with God may come through your tears, not your celebrations. The universe often works most powerfully through our broken places, not despite them, but because of them. When you pray through your pain, when you worship through your weakness, when you trust through your tears, that's not a failure of faith. That's faith in its most authentic, powerful form. That's the kind of faith that moves mountains and opens heaven. The next time someone implies your sadness means weak faith, remember this. God doesn't need your happiness. He wants your honesty. And sometimes, honest faith weeps. 6. God doesn't need you to smile. He needs you to be honest. How exhausting it must be, my dear friends, to keep up appearances, to always present yourself as having it all together, especially in your spiritual life. The universe has designed authenticity as the channel through which divine power flows most freely, yet we often block this flow with our pretense. God isn't impressed by our religious performances. He's moved by our raw vulnerability. When David cried out in Psalm 13:1, "How long, Lord, will you forget me forever?" He wasn't demonstrating weak faith. He was engaging in honest faith. And that's the faith that God honors. Jesus himself modeled this honesty when he cried out on the cross, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Matthew 27:46. If the Son of God could express feeling abandoned, how much more should we feel free to bring our unfiltered emotions before the throne? The Bible teaches us in 1 John 3:20 that even when our hearts condemn us, God is greater than our hearts and knows everything. This means he already knows what you're feeling. The pretense is only blocking your own experience of his comfort. My friends, stop performing for God and start conversing with him. When you're angry, tell him. When you're doubting, admit it. When you're broken, show him. This brutal honesty doesn't distance you from God. It draws you closer to his heart than any polished prayer ever could. The universe responds to authenticity with supernatural power. When you remove the mask and stand honestly before God, just as you are, you position yourself for genuine transformation. 7. You can be the caregiver and still deserve to be held. To the ones who are always strong for everyone else, the mothers who never show weakness, the fathers who never ask for help, the friends who are everyone's rock, the universe acknowledges your hidden exhaustion. My dear friends, your strength is beautiful, but it was never meant to be unending. Even Jesus, who carried the weight of the world, took time to rest, to be ministered to receive care from others. Remember when Mary anointed his feet with expensive perfume in John 12:3. He received this act of love and care. If the Savior of the world could allow himself to be tended to, why do you feel you must always be the strong one? There's a powerful testimony I remember from Maria, a grandmother who raised 5 children and then took in 3 grandchildren when her daughter fell ill. For decades, she was everyone's pillar. She prayed for everyone, cooked for everyone, counseled everyone, but never let anyone see her cry. I couldn't be weak, she told me. They all needed me to be strong. But one Sunday evening in 1968, Maria collapsed from exhaustion after church. As the congregation gathered around her, something remarkable happened. She finally allowed herself to receive prayer instead of giving it. For the first time, she said, I felt God holding me through the hands of others. I realized that my strength had been pride disguised as service. My friends, the universe operates on cycles of giving and receiving. Even the mighty oak receives rain. Even the mountain receives sunlight. Your capacity to care for others is actually replenished when you allow yourself to be cared for. God sees your exhaustion. He knows the weight you carry. And He's inviting you to lay it down just for a moment and experience what it feels like to be held by the one who holds the stars. 8. Tears are a form of prayer too. Those moments when words fail you, when all you can do is weep, the universe treasures those honest tears as sacred communication. My dear friends, sometimes your tears pray more eloquently than your words ever could. When your grief is too deep for language, when your pain defies description, when your heart is too broken to form coherent thoughts, those tears become prayers that bypass your mind and flow directly from your soul to God's heart. The Bible tells us in Romans 8:26 that when we don't know what to pray, the Spirit Himself intercedes for us through wordless groans. This beautiful truth means that even your inarticulate suffering communicates perfectly with God. My friends, have you ever noticed how tears clear your vision? There's something spiritually significant about that. The universe has designed even our physical responses to contain spiritual lessons. When you allow yourself to weep before God, you're often able to see His presence more clearly afterward. Never apologize for your tears in prayer. They aren't signs of weakness. They're evidence of authenticity. They don't demonstrate a lack of faith. They reveal the depth of your trust that God can handle your honest emotions. The psalmist writes that God keeps our tears in a bottle, Psalm 56:8. A beautiful image suggesting that not one drop of your honest sorrow is wasted or forgotten. The universe treasures these raw expressions of your heart. So the next time words fail you in prayer, remember that your tears are speaking volumes in heaven. Let them flow freely before the one who counts them precious. 9. God comes to you when you can't come to him. There are seasons when faith feels impossible, when God seems distant, prayer seems pointless, and hope seems naive. My dear friends, in those dark valleys, the universe operates on a profound principle. When you cannot reach up, divinity reaches down. Remember the story of Hagar in Genesis 16. Abandoned in the desert with her son, she gave up and placed the child under a bush, walking away because she couldn't bear to watch him die. She couldn't pray, couldn't hope, couldn't even try anymore. And that's exactly when God showed up. Not because she reached out to him, but because he reached out to her. This is the stunning truth about divine love. It's not contingent on your spiritual performance. When you're at your weakest, when you can't even form a prayer, when you've given up on trying to feel faith, that's often when God moves most decisively in your life. My friends, there will be days when all you can do is breathe. Days when getting out of bed feels like climbing a mountain. Days when you have nothing left to give, not even to God. On those days, remember this: your inability to reach God never stops him from reaching you. The universe operates on grace that defies our performance-based thinking. Your weakness doesn't disqualify you from divine help. It actually positions you to experience God's strength in its purest form. As 2 Corinthians 12:9 reminds us, his power is made perfect in weakness. So in those moments when you can't muster the strength to pray, when faith feels beyond your grasp, know this: God is already on his way to you. His love doesn't depend on your reach. It depends on his. 10. You're seen even when you feel invisible. In a world that often overlooks the quiet ones, that celebrates the loud and the visible, that rewards performance over authenticity, the universe operates on a different principle entirely. My dear friends, God's attention isn't attracted by volume or spectacle, but by the genuine state of your heart. When you feel most invisible to the world, when your contributions go unrecognized, your pain goes unacknowledged, your efforts go unappreciated, that's often when you're most visible to heaven. Remember the story of Nathanael in John 1:48? Jesus said, "I saw you while you were still under the fig tree before Philip called you." This reveals something profound about how God sees us. He notices us in our private moments, in our quiet reflections, in the spaces where no one else is watching. The crowd might overlook you. Your family might not understand you. Your friends might not see your struggle. But God, the creator of the vast universe with its billions of galaxies, focuses his attention on you with perfect clarity and unwavering devotion. My friends, you have never been invisible to God. Not for 1 second. Not in your darkest night. Not in your loneliest hour. Not in your most silent suffering. His eyes have never left you. His attention has never wandered. His love has never diminished. When the world makes you feel small and unseen, remember that you occupy prime real estate in God's attention. The universe may be expanding, but God's focus on you never dilutes. I'm so happy to have you here with me. If this message is touching your heart and you're still here with me, type 2 in the comments. That way, I'll know you're walking this path of faith, seeking growth, reflection, and wisdom, as Pope Francis taught us. My dear friends, have you ever felt this way? Have you smiled through pain while crying in secret? Please share below in the comments. The journey we've explored today isn't just about acknowledging pain. It's about transforming how we understand God's presence in our suffering. When you accept that your hidden tears are precious to God, something powerful shifts in your spiritual life. You begin to pray differently, with more honesty, less performance. You begin to worship differently, bringing your whole self, including your wounds. You begin to live differently, no longer exhausted by the effort of maintaining appearances. The universe has been designed with this beautiful paradox at its center. It's often through our most vulnerable moments that we experience God's strength most powerfully. It's when we stop trying to be strong that we finally access true divine power. My friends, as you move forward from this message, remember that God isn't waiting for you to have it all together. He's not expecting perfectly formed prayers or unwavering faith. He simply wants you, the real you, with all your doubts, fears, tears, and questions. The peace that comes from this kind of authenticity can't be manufactured or imitated. It flows naturally when you finally lay down the exhausting work of pretending to be okay. This is the gift that awaits you on the other side of vulnerability. Not just spiritual health, but spiritual freedom. By embracing these truths, you'll discover a relationship with God that the world can never offer. One built on raw honesty, rather than religious performance. You'll find your prayers changing, your worship deepening, and your faith becoming more resilient because it's finally rooted in truth rather than appearance. My dear friends, don't keep this message to yourself. Share it with someone who smiles in public but weeps in private. Share it with the strong one who never asks for help. Share it with anyone carrying invisible burdens. Your willingness to share might be the lifeline someone desperately needs today. May God bless you. Type Amen in the comments so I know you stayed with me until the end. Subscribe now and turn on the notification bell. That way, you'll never miss a new heart-touching message. I'll see you in the next video.